Be encouraged, you guide me with your counsel, and afterward you will take me into glory, says Psalm 73:24. Good morning, and welcome to Tandem Radio here at the Bridge FM, one of our last shows at our 10:30 time slot, moving to 11 a.m. every Saturday morning on May 10th. So welcome, and it's good to have you listening. If you're tuning in for the first time, Tandem Radio is all about the good news on business, and we have two simple goals on our show. The first one is to point to God's Scripture, to show people that God wants to be involved in your life in every aspect of your life, including your business life, and He has Scriptures in His Bible that pertain directly to your business and can help you to succeed, because we know God wants you to be successful. And in addition to that, we also bring in guests from all walks of life involved in business in many different aspects. And what we do is we do our best to glean golden nuggets from those individuals to help them provide practical insights to their business that may help you with your business come Monday morning when you get to work. So with that said, our guest today is my friend Richard Brandt, who's the director of the Iacocca Institute at Lehigh University. He served in various VP positions during a 25-year career at AT&T and Lucent, and so much more. I could never be able to get it out in a couple of minutes to start the show, but we'll talk more to Dick in a minute. And it's so great to have him on, and if you're listening today, it's a real blessing. It'll be a real blessing for you, I'm sure, because he's just filled with information and knowledge. But let's start with the scripture for today. The scripture that came to me for this week's show, Proverbs 22:17-20. That's Proverbs 22:17-20. Pay attention and turn your ear to the sayings of the wise. Apply your heart to what I teach, for it is pleasing when you keep them in your heart and have all of them ready on your lips. Say that your trust may be in the Lord. I teach you today, even you. Have I not written 30 sayings for you, sayings of counsel and knowledge? All about wisdom, and of course we're here to talk today about global wisdom. That's the theme of the show today, global wisdom. And I don't know anyone else out there that has more of that knowledge that I know directly than Dick Brandt, who, again, he's the director of the Iacocca Institute at Lehigh University. And he's worked literally around the globe. Every time he comes to the show, he's just been back from 52 countries or something. And Dick, good morning and welcome.
Yeah, good morning, Glenn. It's good to be here again.
Oh, and it's so good to have you, Dick. You know we have an open door for you. It's just every time we get together, we end up walking out here going, there's 5 more shows we could do.
A few more things we could talk about.
That's it. Dick, for people who may be listening for the first time, just give us a little bit of your background.
Yeah, so I spent 25 years with AT&T, and most of that time was overseas running global operations and setting up joint ventures and companies. And then when I finally retired, I met Lee Iacocca, and that was 18 years ago, and we started this global program that we'll talk about a little later, the Global Village, and been teaching at Lehigh and running this global program for young entrepreneurs and leadership training all over the world.
Oh, that's great. And, you know, I know these programs have just been incredible, and I've been blessed to be a part of some of them, which I can't wait to talk about more later. But today we're here to talk specifically about global wisdom, and let's start that off with you've, once again, been on the road and out on a trip and doing your thing. Yeah. Tell us a little about your most recent travels.
Yeah, my most recent travel was, I was in 7 countries in about 30 different cities, and wow. I was recruiting and teaching and started off in a number of places that I wanted to go back and talk to some of our clients that support our program. But you know, Glenn, after these many years in doing this business, a lot of these people are retiring and leaving. Oh, okay. So I've got to go back to these government organizations or these universities or these business societies and remind them who we are and start over again.
Right.
And one of the really startling one was for me was to go back to Israel, because I hadn't been there for 10 years.
Okay.
And I don't know if you want to talk a little bit about,
sure.
about that. I mean, Israel was at the end of the trip, and what I was stunned by was it was the first time that I saw the Wall, the other Great Wall, right. Not the Chinese Great Wall. Right. And I drove all the way from, from the Sea of Galilee all the way down to the Dead Sea. I was along the Jordan River. In fact, had an unbelievable experience. We turned a corner. We were down near the border of Jordan. And here was, here I'm in Israel, right?
Right?
And here was a group of about 100 Christians standing by the Jordan River, and they were being baptized.
Oh, wow.
So I was looking for John the Baptist, right?
There you go.
So that was really startling for me, because I didn't expect to find that there, right? But the big issue is this separation between, of course, Palestine and Israel, and it is fairly safe right there now. They haven't had many incidents, and so I spent a lot of time with the Israeli business people and then some of the young Palestinian business people that have been in my program.
So you were on both sides of the wall.
I had a chance to go on both sides of the wall, and I was in Ramallah. I took a chance. It was funny. We came up to a roundabout, and I was driving in an Israeli car, and here comes the Palestinian car across the border, and the Palestinians jumped out of their car, the Israelis jumped out of their car. We're all hugging in the middle of this roundabout, taking pictures, and then I jumped in the Palestinian car, boom, back across the border.
Wow.
Israelis couldn't go with me.
Oh, no kidding.
No.
Oh, wow.
They didn't have a pass to get over.
Right.
And even though they're great friends with these Palestinians, because they all studied together here at my program, we couldn't go over.
Oh, wow. Okay. So,
yeah.
So tell us a little bit more about what's going on over there. I mean, what do you feel are the differences between the two sides of the wall?
Well, you know, the big issue that I really felt, because I was with some lawyers and some people that were part of the early years of the formation of Israel, right? And the big difference I saw was that the young people on both sides of the wall, they want peace. They really do want peace. And the Israelis, young people, are prepared to give away that segment of Israel, about 9,000 kilometers, that would actually go to Palestine if they follow the wall, right? Right, okay. But of course, as you talk to the Israelis, the older Israeli you talk to, the older the person is, they don't want it at all. Oh, they fought too hard for what they have, and they figure it's too much of a giveaway. And I'm not even talking about Jerusalem, because I spent a whole day in Jerusalem. It's a whole other subject, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Because
you
everybody's
got 4 quarters to deal with.
Right. We got the Greek Orthodox there, we got the Catholics, we got the Christians, and we
don't
got
get the Armenians.
The Armenians, right? No, so they're all there, along with the Jews and the Muslims. Right. That's a whole other story, but. They want to do business together. I was stunned. There's 20% of the Palestinians that are crossing the border every day to work in Israel. Right, yeah. To work in Israel.
20%.
20%. And amazing, you know. So they're there, they're working. And of course, there's Palestinian Israelis that have been there for years, right? So the younger people want peace, and the older people think we're not going to have it at any cost.
Wow. On both sides, it's like
on
this.
both sides.
Wow.
On both sides. So it was really interesting to me to see that. But the business, it's all about business.
Right. So what is business like on both sides? I mean, is it like? I mean, we get the perspective here from the U.S. It's thriving in Israel. It's dying in Palestine. I mean,
it is.
What is it? Is that the case?
Yeah, it is the case. It is the case. I mean, the minute you cross the border, you see the difference in infrastructure. You know, the Israelis are all business, as you know. I mean, I heard once that there's more Israeli companies listed on the U.S. Stock Exchange than any country in the world, and I'm sure that's the case. Everybody you meet is right into it, right into business. High-tech companies, they're fantastic, right? But you go over to the Palestinian side, the young people, they don't have the educational system that is over in Israel, but they're struggling. A lot of them travel outside to get their education and come back, and they're trying to change it, but there's just not the money there. And this is me saying this, so some people will be upset, but the corruption is endemic, in the Palestinian side. Maybe you way back when you and I talked that I had actually had the opportunity to sit down with Yasser Arafat years ago when I was trying to do business there, and he was a very corrupt individual, very engaging guy, by the way. That corruptness in the Palestinian side has not changed since I was there in the early 90s trying to do business. And so it's endemic in the culture. And the young people, they talk freely about it. I was at this restaurant surrounded with young Palestinians, and they're talking to me about the corruption in their own business sense. And I was amazed.
Right.
But it's there.
Right. And they treat it just as a way of life.
It's the way of life.
It's something that needs to be taken care of or corrected. Yeah. What about the Palestinian Christians? I mean, I know there's a fair amount of them there, but they're waning, I should say.
Yeah, I didn't meet any. Okay. I mean, the Palestinians that I've had in my program, the ones that are there, they come through a State Department program, so they have to be practicing Muslims. Oh. That's why they're sent out of Palestine to my program.
Yeah, have to be practicing Muslim.
Yeah, well, it's an interesting program.
How do they quantify that?
Well, I don't know. Okay. I don't know. I let the State Department worry about it. But it's a program called Yes, and it's actually picked up the Muslim component of my program, so that I'll have 10 Muslim countries there this summer. I wouldn't have them had it not been for the State Department, right? And these are young leaders that they think are very moderate and are interested in democracy, are interested in business, and they're picking them, and they're coming to my program.
Interesting.
So I don't get any Christian Palestinians. Wow. Actually, I'm sure they're there, but I don't meet them.
That's unfortunate. Yeah. So, relative to, we're talking globally here today, right? It's not. It seems to me, is business still the international language?
It is. I mean, it's actually what's breaking down all the borders. Business is the reason people are crossing borders. And there was an old, I think a 15th century economist that said, when goods stop crossing borders,
right,
the armies will.
That's right. That's exactly right.
And that's exactly true. And I mean, a little bit of that is going on with the Russians and the Ukrainians right now, right? So yeah, it is the universal language. That's why I have 50 countries coming to my program. All these young people are trying to figure out how to do business together. And I'm going to have Serbs and Croats, just like I will have Palestinians and Israelis again, working together, trying to put their business together. Probably we'll even have some Armenians and some Turks there.
We
too.
have more Armenians?
Yeah.
I love to have Armenians. Well, my son's going to be going to Armenia, so I got something to talk about this time, so
all
that's
right.
great.
Cool.
We have so much more to cover. We're going back to this universal language of business right after this next break, all right?
Good.
You're listening to Tandem Radio. This is your host, Glenn DeLakian, here every Saturday morning, now at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time here at the Bridge FM. Now expanded with our signal now covering the 5 boroughs of New York and so much more. It's exciting to see the growth here at the Bridge and hopefully in our listenership as well, and we're glad that you're tuned in. Again, here every Saturday morning at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time at the Bridge FM. Don't forget Tandem Radio. Feel free, tandemradio.com. Feel free to send us an email there, info@tandemradio.com. That's info@tandemradio.com. Drop us a line. We'd love to hear from you and know what you're thinking and what you'd like to hear on the show and any other input you may have or questions you may have, whatever we can do to help you with your business. We'll be right back after this break. Welcome back. This is your host, Glenn DeLakian, here at Tandem Radio, now at our new time slot, 11 to noon every Saturday morning here at the Bridge FM. And our scripture for today, Proverbs 22:17-20. Pay attention and turn your ear to the sayings of the wise. Apply your heart to what I teach. For it is pleasing when you keep them in your heart and have all of them ready on your lips, so that your trust may be in the Lord. I teach you today, even you. Have I not written 30 sayings for you, sayings of counsel and knowledge? Our theme today is global wisdom, and to help me bring that message to you is Richard Brandt, is the director of Lehigh Iacocca Institute of Lehigh University, and has served in various VP positions during a 25-year career at AT&T and Lucent. Dick, again, welcome. It's good to have you back.
Okay, Glenn, good to be back.
We have so much to cover. We were talking in the last segment about global wisdom, obviously, but more how business is the international language, and I think it has been that way forever, and certainly has to be that way more as we move ahead. And you've been out on your travels. You've been to Israel, Palestine, but you've also been to Europe. Tell us a little about what's going on there.
Yeah, well, earlier, Glenn, we talked a little bit about Italy and Portugal, and I only bring those two up. I mean, I was in the UK and I was in Luxembourg and Sweden and some other places, but particularly Italy and Portugal are in the news because of the economy, and they are struggling. Okay, very struggling, and struggling for kind of different reasons. Italy, I work with the government there to find young family business people, like yourself, to bring to the States. The issue is, and this number is so staggering, I don't even know if it's true, but the prevailing wisdom is that about 85% of the people that are in small businesses don't pay their taxes.
Oh, wow. That's
anything near that's Italy, right? And so the reality of the situation is Italy would not be in financial problem if people only paid their taxes.
Oh, wow.
But it's not part of their culture, right? And so there's all these struggling young business people that are trying to create businesses and get out of this kind of dark mire that the country seems to be in, and yet their parents, who own the businesses, don't want any part of being transparent, and that's a problem. The bigger businesses, they've learned that. The businesses in the north, Milano, Torino, Ivrea, all those places, they understand that, and that's where the business thrives.
Right.
Most of what I'm saying is happening in the south.
Oh, okay.
And it's really a big issue. The other thing that's going on there, and I was stunned by it because somehow I missed this in the global scene. Venice looks like it's prepared to secede from Italy.
Really?
Yeah.
Is that a possibility?
It's absolutely. They're taking it to a referendum.
No kidding.
And I was up north talking to the people, and they say that 55 to 60% of the people in Venice, in Venezia, are ready to secede from Italy.
Wow.
They don't want any part of the EU, and they certainly don't want any part of the government in Rome.
Right.
And I'm going, you got to be kidding me. Venice is not going to be part of Italy. I'm astounded. It's just more of this unhappiness. I mean,
Right.
it could be like, the Francophones in Canada. Look what happened in Belgium, where they were trying to split, right, between the Flemish and the French.
Mm-hmm.
So just a general kind of uneasy unhappiness. I mean, who would ever think that, Venice was split?
Right, exactly.
But they say that their business is thriving up there in tourism,
Oh, okay, yeah.
and that they don't want to pay any more tax to the EU or to Rome, and that's where it is.
Well, I don't know. I'm not sure about your opinion on it, but it seems to me like the EU is becoming an apparent failed experiment. So I don't know what's happening there.
I mean, obviously this is the big issue, right?
Yeah.
Especially where we are right now. I mean, no one is prepared to have the EU fail. There's 28 countries in it, and
Right.
you and I have talked before. It should never have been 28. I mean, there's a bunch of countries there that don't belong,
Mhm.
right? But the issue is really, of course, Germany. Germany's the bank,
Mhm.
right? And I spent some time in Germany last year. I was in 3 universities, and the Germans are fed up. I mean, there's enough people there that it makes it scary. I mean, there is about 28% of the German public, if polled, would say, we're out of here. We're going back to the Deutsche Mark.
Right.
And that is really cataclysmic, because
Sure.
if I know, their president is keeping things going, but if the Germans poll, it's all downhill
Right,
from
right.
there. And they're the bank, and this structure in Belgium has become so large, and it costs so much money to maintain it, and nothing comes out of it.
Right.
That the people who are all now paying into it are saying, why are we doing this
Yeah,
way?
I can't see how they can sustain it. I mean, it's just incredible.
Yeah, I mean, it's great you can travel across borders now and you don't have to show your passport,
Right.
but they're still speaking their own languages,
Right.
except English is the business language.
Okay.
But the EU thing is really critical
Mm.
at this point. I mean, it would be critical for the U.S. too if it fell apart. But I don't know. I mean, there are some successes like Airbus, where they pulled the aeronautical business from the UK, from the Germans, from the French, and they pulled it all together and they made Airbus.
Mhm.
In our lifetime, they made Airbus,
Right.
and now look, it competes with Boeing. So
Right.
there are some good examples, but very few.
Yeah, yeah. And so with all this being said, is business thriving or is it suffering there because of all this?
Well, mostly where I go, except Germany,
Right.
it's on the downtrend.
Mm.
It's on the downtrend, and investment is not happening.
Right.
And they're all going out. They're getting out of the EU, and they're going out to the other markets. So that's why they're spending all their time in Asia and Latin America,
Oh, okay.
right?
Yep.
Because the business is not thriving the way that they had hoped there. I mean, the bigger problem is immigration, right? I mean, immigration has become so vastly more a problem, even more than we talk about it here in the United States,
Right.
that a lot of these economies are not able to keep up with it. In fact, I think it was just the Swiss that passed laws against immigration, some really onerous laws.
Mm.
And there was a number of the EU countries that are looking at what the Swiss did. So, I mean, this grand experiment of putting these together and becoming one, because the whole idea was to become one market as big as the United States, right?
Right.
We have a different advantage over here.
Sure.
We are a United States speaking the same language, at least for the most part,
Right.
and we have the same ideals.
Right.
It's not the same over there.
Now, we're going to talk later about your Global Village program.
Right.
But how do you see that impacting these scenarios? I mean, are these students coming here and basically learning business American style?
Well, there's a lot of American business in the program. I mean, you've been up there in the panel, but there's a lot of foreign business people here. But really, most of the learning takes place between themselves while they're working on teams, as they're trying to figure out a way to put their own business together.
Right.
They are becoming very close to each other, and I think we're doing our own little part like the UN.
Right.
We've now got 1,700 graduates in 130 countries.
Wow.
And they're online talking all the time, hundreds and hundreds of them, right? And every time I run a program overseas, we have 40 or 50 of them show up, right?
Mm.
So they really are trying to do business together and understand each other's culture, because it really starts understanding the culture and the religion and what people believe in, Like last summer, we had a whole week-long series on Ramadan, because we were running the program in the middle of Ramadan, which is
Right.
what's going to happen this year again.
Okay.
And so the Muslims wanted, and these are very moderate Muslims, they wanted the rest of the cultures to understand the whole issue of Ramadan and their religion. And so they ran a series of evening sessions. Of course, they were fasting during the day.
Right.
So they couldn't eat with the regular
Right.
interns in the program. So Yeah, I think moderation is really important.
Now, what about America? As far as American business owners, are there still business opportunities in these countries, or should they be really staying away?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, America is still considered the most entrepreneurial country in the world with the most enthusiasm for business and the easiest place to do business, okay? So they're still very open. Now, politically, all these places I think we got our politics somewhere crazy.
Right.
And they don't think that we're leading the world the way we used to lead.
No, we don't.
Okay, and we're not, and we don't, and we're not, right? We have a particular political structure in place right now that is not leading the world, and they recognize that, right? But they still believe, and we do, still lead the world in business. So that's pretty important, because they believe that if they can get connected with U.S. businesses, that most of the exciting ideas, of course, all of them, I could almost say, the exciting ideas that are driving everything, from eBay and PayPal and Google and all of that have come out of the U.S. And even the biggest business guys in China, like the guy that's head of Alibaba, he's coming over here to buy businesses, right? Even though he's the single biggest, business, and Google has no place really at all in China because he controls the market over there. So, but they're still coming here.
Now, with that said, and I don't mean this in a political sense because I think it's a very true statement. Is our perceived weakness around the world, especially with our foreign policy issues, is that impacting these business opportunities?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, there's no question that the political powers that I see when I go to all these countries feel that we have really taken a step back, that we really don't have a very clear policy of what we're doing and where we're going, and where we're leading. I mean, if you're in Korea, they know we're going to protect them on the DMZ. If we're in Taiwan, they know we're not going to let China come over the border and take over, right? But everywhere else they're going, what is your strength? Who are you in favor of, right? And we didn't really take a very strong position here with this whole Ukrainian thing either.
Sure. Well, unfortunately, there's more to come in that area for a little while. We'll see what happens. Well, Dick, as usual, the show went so quick, and I want to thank you for being here today. And we have a lot more to talk about. We'll do that at a future show. And God bless you and all you're doing.
Okay, thanks, Glenn. It's a pleasure to be here. We'll look forward to seeing you this summer.
Thank you. You're listening to Tandem Radio. This is your host, Glenn DeLakin, here every Saturday morning with my good friend Dick Brandt. And I could sit here and talk with him for hours, and I'm sure you would get the benefit too, the audience, if we had the time. But we'll get him back as we have in the past, and we'll be talking about a lot more topics in the future. So you're listening to the Good News on Business here every Saturday morning in our new time slot at 11 a.m. starting May 10th. Will be our noon time slot from 11 a.m. to noon. Of course, this show aired at 10:30, but from here on in the future, you'll be hearing us for an hour at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time on the Bridge FM every Saturday morning. So we have a lot more coming up for you in the days ahead. Don't forget, tandemradio.com, just a powerful resource for you, tandemradio.com. Or info@tandemradio.com. You can drop us an email, send us a line, let us know what you're thinking, and we just like to know that you're listening too, so feel free to just say hello at info@tandemradio.com. And we love your comments on Facebook. Go to our Facebook page, Tandem Radio on Facebook. Click like and send us a message or a word or two or even a photo or whatever you'd like. We'd love to communicate with you on Facebook as well at Tandem Radio. Again, listen for our new time slot, 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time on the Bridge FM radio station.